Thank you for tuning in once again to his Vine and Victory podcast. My name is Kurt Olson. I am your host. I'm coming to you on December 26th, the day after Christmas, last episode of the year. Um, just a lot happening this time of year for everybody, I can only assume. And some people will get to this perhaps right away, and others when they can. And I get that. Um, but I do want to share a few Christmas reflections with you um, from my past and um, a few other things that are just observations I see in the culture that are worth noting, all focused on Jesus Christ. Um, as a kid, I think a lot of people who have been watching this and know me know that my dad died when I was really young. Um, and we moved closer to Bemis Point after my dad died in the Bust area here in Chautauqua County. And we never had extravagant Christmases. Yeah, we had Christmases, clothes. We had the bike Christmases. A variety of games we got. The one I remember really specifically was not the air hockey game, but the one with the long rectangular board and the levers that you use to score goals on the other team, passing the puck to the guys on your team and whatnot. So, uh, all kinds of things when I was a kid, and we used to have live pine tree. I know my mom reached a point where she was kind of frustrated with the mess it made, um, and went to artificial tree. Probably in my late elementary or very maybe middle school, early high school years. And I mean, those were also the days when the artificial trees were very artificial, and they they didn't carry along a more realistic look that a lot of the artificial trees do today. So there's that. Um, I was in a lot of Christmas programs at church over time. Nile Baptist Church when I was young, Ellery Baptist Church a little older. And the church was the focal point of a lot of things in my life, and at Christmas time, no different. Um, Christmas Eve services, barring tremendous busyness of schedule, um, seek to fit it in the schedule. And I mean, this year was no different. My church, Hillcrest in Jamestown, did a cantata and very well done. Two services, 5 and 7. My family went to the 7 p.m. one, and like a lot of churches, you have candlelight service at the end and the singing of Silent Night. Um, Happen again, um, but let's be kind of realistic here. I mean, it's worth it. Um, Jesus Christ changed history. You have 400 years of silence, no prophets, no nothing after Malachi and a few of those other books there at the end of the Old Testament. And I mean, we went from BC to AD just with his arrival on the planet. And um, you cannot overstate the significance of the birth of this baby. Now, I do not believe he was born on December 25th. I believe it was probably more springtime when that occurred. But the time of year doesn't matter. Um, Jesus Christ changed history, period. He, I mean, his life, and while we even read of Mary, even at his crucifixion, you don't read a lot about Joseph after the birth narrative and the leaving Nazareth because Herod is a madman is now killing boys 2 years old and younger. And once Herod is out of the picture, they go back to Nazareth. And Jesus Christ would grow up to be someone who preached, taught, um, healed the lame, the sick, the blind, cast out demons, raised Lazarus from the dead, a lot of things. And his disciples, even apostles, were probably people when this this king was being talked about and prophesied that uh, they were expecting someone who was going to challenge the Roman emperors, someone who was going to come in and deal with them as they needed to be dealt with. And it didn't happen that way. He he was of a kingdom not of this world. And uh, even in the crucifixion narrative, Jesus is before Pontius Pilate, and uh, so it is. But he changed history, absolutely, positively changed history. And there are believers in Jesus Christ world over who whose lives have been changed by this one person in history, and just cannot be overstated. I mean, uh, but I mean, as a parent, I mean, my wife and I, we've had some interesting Christmases. Writing about one on Sunday specifically, and various states and locations. We've had green Christmases, and it's really not green down south. They're more brown because the grass is now dead because it's not the growing season. And so the idea of it being a green Christmas really isn't very realistic because that's not what happens. But uh, I mean, Christmas in Texas, Christmas in South Carolina, um, and just a shout out for the folks around the country who do live nativities. When I was a reporter and specifically the religion editor of the News Herald in Willoughby, Ohio, um, it was rather regular for me to get to one of the live nativities and do some reporting on it, talk to people. And um, there was one in Menor, Ohio that was pretty regular, a few in that area. But um, no location that I am familiar with does the Christmas story like Burnett, Texas. So when we ended up moving to the Austin, Texas area, after being in Northeast Ohio and job loss in Northeast Ohio, a variety of circumstances that unfolded there, um, you have a situation where we're now in Round Rock, Texas, just north of Austin, the city that is home to Dell Computer and a few other tech businesses. And you have folks at our church, and the church we called home there was Central Baptist, and a shout out to those folks. Just a wonderful church while we were literally away from home. And Pastor Mark Westerfield was pastor at the time. He's been going through some physical stuff. So, my family's been praying for him. Um, we would encourage others to as well. That his family's trying to get some answers on some things. And But when we were at Central Baptist, people are like, "Oh, you got to go to Burnett, Texas. You got to see Main Street Bethlehem." So one of the Friday nights, this production was going on. We make the trek to Burnett, Texas. Sam was 9. Olivia was just shy of her uh, 7th birthday. She would have been 7 in January 2012. And so we do this, and haven't seen anything like it. Tour buses, traffic all over the place. First Baptist Church, Burnett, Texas, puts on a display that is literally like the local downtown Bethlehem, including merchants, markets, Roman soldiers, uh, people in character doing various things, talking about this special star in the sky. And you come to the end of this thing, and back in a little cave area, you have alive Joseph, Mary, and baby. Um, and those folks in Burnett, Texas, just blow up that, and that's a compliment. That's a compliment. I mean, just well done display. And if you're somewhere looking for a nice long Christmas trip, go to Burnett, Texas, while Main Street Bethlehem is on display. You will not be disappointed. Um, and just one other, just kind of reflection, and I try to do it even today. Back when I started teaching in 2016, I put some signs up that kind of struck me, and it's this: "Wise men still seek him," and that is just a statement that anyone at any place in their lives can be in a mindset of seeking Christ, and he's there, period. Um, so just wanted to kind of just say a few things about my Christmases from the past, and just share some things. But even on this spiritual note, just want to share some things that are going on in the culture right now that I've seen repeated throughout the fall. There was something that occurred even in Times Square prior to Christmas, and making a note of something happening overseas. So, people who know me know I'm an Ohio State Buckeyes fan. And last weekend, first round of the college football playoffs, they played Tennessee. They defeated the Volunteers pretty easily. Really happy about that. But specifically, a certain moment in the first quarter. So Ohio State scores on their first 3 possessions. On the third possession, a running back by the name of Travion Henderson um, cuts to the right, goes down the sideline, and scores. As he is now in the end zone, he goes, he does the sign for Jesus loves you. Now, I realize everybody in this audience is not a sports fan, and I get that. But this is something that's going on spiritually, so stick with me. Back in the September, late summer, you had um, what would be regarded as kind of a little worship service that unfolded in one of the common courtyard areas for students on the campus of Ohio State University. And there were several football players that were kind of leading it. Travion Henderson was involved in that, I believe. Emeka Egbuka, and they had 20 some guys on the football team, even sporting shirts honoring God as they were prepping for the season. And but I mentioned Travion Henderson only to kind of emphasize a couple other things. Just the other day, I see something on social media from Colorado State University. Colorado State University. Colorado is a pretty left wing state. I mean, they've legalized marijuana in the last decade or better. And a state that was fairly purple for a period of years is now a pretty solid blue Western state. And Colorado State University, and I don't know if this was the quarterback, I don't even know who the player was. Videos unfolding. And this kid goes, we can talk about football and time, but I want to start this by giving honor to God for everything that's going on, and we can talk football at any time, and we can eventually do that, but we want to give honor to God. And this kid was basically saying how during their bye week during the season, um, they had several players baptized on the Colorado State University football team. And so you had something going on at Ohio State. You have something going on at Colorado State. I'm familiar with um, other incidents going on at South Carolina University. The star running back, who was a Heisman finalist from Boise State University, at Ashton Jeanty, that kid was baptized during the season. Um, there's something going on college campuses. I don't know what to call it, and I don't want to jump so far as to call it a revival, but something is going on. Something is happening. And if you're a follower of Jesus Christ, you should be happy about that. You should be extremely happy to see young adults coming to Christ. And just a couple other things. Saw a video, and people who are Facebook friends may have seen this. I shared it Christmas morning because that's when I saw it for the first time. Um, Times Square, and I don't know if this was Sunday, I don't know if this was Saturday, I don't know if this was Monday, but it was posted on December 23rd. So that would have been Monday. So sometime in recent days, prior to Christmas, the 27 screens in Times Square go dark. And then all of a sudden, you have the story of the birth of Jesus unfolding in digital display on these screens. And the video I saw of people's faces as they are seeing this. Now, okay, were some of them perhaps followers of Jesus Christ? Yeah, perhaps. But you clearly get the impression by the faces of some of these individuals, they were just absolutely mesmerized by what happened. Now, the Mormons the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints sponsored that, fronted the money to make that happen in Times Square. Good on them, even though I don't agree with Mormonism at all. But so that happened just in the days leading to Christmas. And then and I've been talking about the stuff going on in Syria just in recent weeks. You have basically a revolution that unfolded, a takeover of the government that no one was anticipating, and very few were predicting. And all of a sudden, you have this HTS coming on the scene, capturing Aleppo, one of the largest cities in the country, capturing a couple other major cities. Then all of a sudden, they're in Damascus, and Bashir al-Assad is scooting out of town. He is getting asylum with his family in Russia, and Syria is now being led by basically former jihadis. And I have written a column in recent weeks, and I have talked about the concerns that people should have for believers in Syria. And in Syria, prior to Christmas, Islamists burned a Christmas tree. For some of these Christian towns, a lit Christmas tree is a common display. And these local Christians, and I don't know what the town was, and the city doesn't matter. The harsh reality is some Muslims came into the town and burned a lit tree in the center square, in the city or town square. And these Christians said, okay, we're going to one up you. We're going to erect a cross. And that's what they did. So there's some stuff going on around the world right now. And it would behoove Christians in the United States of America to really be paying attention to some of these things. Just around Thanksgiving time or somewhere around that time, we had headline in the Wall Street Journal about a 22% growth in the sale of Bibles just in the United States of America. And they're attributing it to anxiety and people wanting hope. Our culture has no substance, no foundation. There's nothing that is giving people hope. And as we're seeing on some college campuses with some of these college athletes, they're asking some hard questions and they want hope. And so there's some very interesting things going on in the culture. And I know my entire lifetime, people have been praying for revival. Let me share with you a quote from former President Ronald Reagan that I got as a Christmas present just yesterday. And shout out to my sister-in-law, Beth Kinney, who got me this. I'm going to read this. This is a quote from Ronald Reagan. We have problems in our country, and many people are praying and waiting for God to do something. Even when Reagan was president in the 80s, the church was praying for revival. And that's what he's making reference to there. I just wonder if maybe God isn't waiting for us to do something. And while no one else is capable of doing everything, everyone is capable of doing something. That's one of the many great quotes from our former president, Ronald Reagan. and uh, applying this to culture and spiritual issues in our country. And so as we come to this last podcast of 2024 with a very chaotic election, um, and just just some things that I would be pointing out to people as they get a sense of what's going on a little deeper. And I know the church likes to be praying for revival, and it's a very legitimate prayer. Don't get me wrong. I don't want people to come to me, oh, why don't you believe in revival? That is not what I'm saying here. I'm just saying that if God is on the move, and he is, Travion Henderson, Colorado State University, the running back at Boise State University, South Carolina University, a variety of other teams in college football, and perhaps even other sports on college campuses. Something's going on. And then the thing in Times Square, and then the thing in Syria. I'm just pointing out these anecdotes to just help people see God's doing something. God is on the move. And while we've been praying for revival in our country, um, through national days of prayer and other things in recent years, just realize when God is doing something and changing people's lives, we aren't going to know until 15, 25, 50 years later if we can call it a revival. Um, the church needs another name for these kinds of things. But make no mistake, God is on the move right now all over this world. And he's doing stuff. And it's the kind of things that only he can do. And it is the kind of things where whatever is going on is happening. God wants human beings saying at the end, God did that. God did that. Because he doesn't want us taking any of the glory ourselves. Because he alone is worthy of it and it should be given back to him. But God is doing stuff. He is on the move. And I would encourage people who watch this podcast and that there should be some excitement about what God is up to. Um, can't put my finger on it. It's a lot of very anecdotal stuff. I've written some other columns in the last probably 3, 4, 5 months of the year that were just kind of highlighting little things. And I'd encourage people to go back and read those if you did not read them at the time. But God's on the move. He's doing something. And as we come to the end of 2024, there should be a tremendous level of excitement because um, change lives are a big deal. Change lives are the thing that God does. And so I think that's all I will say about that. But I just wanted to point out some things that are just simple observations, anecdotes going on that are important to be paying attention to. So There's going to be two videos I end up dropping in the comments of this podcast. The first one is the production that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints produced that was on the screens of Times Square. And then I want to leave you with a wonderful, heartwarming, short video of soldiers in the U.S. military being reunited with some of their children. It's short. It runs about a minute and a half or two, but you cannot watch that and not just well up with a lot of pride, and not just the sacrifices those men and women make for this country, but the sacrifices those families make as well. And I even say that as my son Sam has a friend, a good friend, who is headed into the Army sometime in January. So the next time you see this podcast, it will be 2025. And until then, God bless and goodbye.